Hi and hello and welcome to episode 7 of Going Over. Let's go.
Good
Let's
morning,
go.
good evening, good afternoon, good day.
Good. Whatever time you're tuning in. Good to that time. I am Fred Slow. Alongside me, Sally Taylor. Welcome to the program. If you're already not regularly part of the program, welcome to the program for the first time. If you're returning to us from other times, just welcome back. Welcome back. That's how I like that a lot. A lot going on in the world of pro wrestling this last week. We'll talk about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Big thank you to KFNS. That's my old station. What am I doing? KNML here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, for obviously hosting your boys. We're enjoying that greatly. I know we're bumped this week, so we're podcast only this week as there's Lobo football, UNM Lobo football going on this weekend. So we're excited about they are going to have a fun little season. We are based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we're fortunate through our radio partners to have a partnership with the University of New Mexico. So that's a fun thing. So you're joining us on the digital only platform, and Saleh and I will make sure it's available to you in all of our outlets. Speaking of social media, Going Over has it. We're establishing a base right now. We're still early, but you get a lot of updates on our program through Duke City Championship Wrestling. Big thank you to everyone who's a part of Duke City Championship Wrestling. Duke City Championship Wrestling's next performance is September the 14th at the historic El Rey Theater. Come hang out with your boys, as we're going to have a banger of an evening. Saleh Taylor not in attendance for our next show as he is performing at the State Fair. Saleh,
Yes.
you just headline in the state now?
I'm going wherever I'm needed. Unfortunately, I'm needed more over there. My apologies.
How's your writer's strike going? You doing well?
I am chilling. I'm going full music mode. I'm going full wrestling mode. I'm going full right now, just alternative means, but I'm just I'm a storyteller through and through, though, and I'm trying to tell the next story.
Well, the reason I'm asking about the writer's strike to start the program is I think there's two juxtapositions right now in pro wrestling, right? There's the exit again of CM Punk, which we'll talk about at length, from AEW, and the return of John Cena. Now, John Cena returning to the WWE, to me, is a big deal. He only wrestled one match last year. Obviously, he took a tough L at WrestleMania this year, and what I think is a really cool effort to help Austin Theory go over. I think Austin Theory is a world of talent. With that said, John Cena's only back because there's a writer's strike, right? And there's nothing else.
Yes,
that's got to be it.
Yeah, they shelved 2 of his projects, actually, one a series and one feature, and same thing's going on with The Rock right now, which is really cool because he's actually focusing on our hearts still going out to those affected in Maui, but he's been helping out there as much as he can. But yeah, all these big names are finding ways to keep themselves busy. John Cena, that's kind of cool. His fallback right now is wrestling, professional wrestling.
It's not the worst windfall to have if you're going to have one. Like he shows up, he starts a new T-shirt, he gets the crowd going. He's doing really good work again with The Miz. He shows up last Thursday on SmackDown, says hi, says hello. The crowd gives him all of that. He looks the part. I think he'll always look the part. You know, he's one of those guys that'll never fall out. Then The Miz comes out, and you think, well, we've seen this. We're running this one back, but we're running. Yeah. You and I have seen it. Maybe fan that hasn't been watching for the last 10 years, maybe they haven't seen it. And I think I'm excited to see how I'm excited to see how fan base reacts to what I know is already a really good narrative in John Cena and The Miz.
There are people talking about there's like a revisionist history with John Cena, because remember back in the day, John Cena was the face of the company. He carried the company for years, and there are those who remember it as John Cena getting booed out of the building every time, or John Cena getting cheered by all the kids. But more importantly, John Cena was getting reactions. That's the best and the biggest, most important part of it. And there was a reason why he was a man to carry the company during the PG area, the aggression area, the new aggression.
When he came in and he got a
ruthless aggression. There you go, ruthless aggression.
Oh, I apologize, I wasn't following your lead on that, but yes, when he came in, his story's kind of the perfect WWE formula, and I think you've seen it try to be emulated with some other guys, and I think the fan base recognizes that. I think they see, hey, you've done this before, we don't necessarily need to do that again. We're not going to follow your lead on that. So, with really successful stuff, Roman Reigns being an example. When John Cena left, that was interesting as a fan, because he's the guy who I think I saw his entire career. I've been watching 30-something years, and And I guess technically I saw the coming and going of one like Steve Austin. Steve Austin was only around for like a cup of coffee. He had a big impact, but his ripple was small.
Yeah.
The Undertaker I think counts, but I feel like the Undertaker was established whenever I started watching, even though it was not for very long. John Cena leaving to me looked like a hole that the WWE didn't know how to fill for some time. And I think it's filled now, which is kind of incredible. They got really good faces, they got really good heels, they got really good storytelling. They're not struggling with merchandise. They don't need to go hire a guy like CM Punk to fill seats. They're not struggling with that. With that said, when he came back, Saleh, it's almost like he's a +1. He's almost like he's just made it that much better because you can kind of insert him anywhere instead of having to rely on him completely.
He's a bonus. He's that bonus. He's a 11sies. He's a second breakfast. He's the he's the bonus entree. You go back for seconds and stuff. But it's good seeing him not having to carry the company. And you could see it in his demeanor. He's always been a bit loose, especially like in the recent years where he comes in, he knows he's going to do a spot, get someone over, have some fun. But this time he's going to be in for, longer period, depending on how long the strike goes. But you can see that he doesn't have to really try to work the crowd. He doesn't have to try to get reaction. He doesn't have to, come in and carry the night. He's coming in literally having fun. He's the fun uncle. He's the fun uncle right now.
Well, he's got two different narratives, right? And maybe even three if we really want to compliment him. To where he can come out, he can do his character. He looks the part that kids think wrestlers should look. Like kids connect with him, kids laugh with him, kids celebrate with him. He also wrestles really well. I think people 5 moves of doom and kind of all this weird feedback he would get forever. And then he can say the thing to like the internet, to the real smart quote unquote fan that gets them excited in their own way too, to where like, oh, this isn't the John Cena I remember. This is the John Cena that if he started his own wrestling promotion could run the entire industry. Like he's a dude who's that plugged into it. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that he's back. And as we transition into CM Punk talk, I appreciate, as I'm learning the business as a promoter, that I think his presence in the back is a thing that keeps guys going in the right direction, keeps guys accountable. There's got to be a different I don't know if you have, but I've been in the back of press conferences or going past wrestlers. There's a big ass difference when you're walking past, and no offense to this individual, I think he's killing it. When you're walking past Dominic Mysterio pushing his luggage and you're walking past John Cena pushing his luggage. There's two energies to that, and one of them changes the game, and I think that's John Cena.
I agree. Once again, I got to come up with a better catchphrase besides "I agree."
Yeah,
indubitably.
No, yes, and
yes, I'm carrying it on, man. Yeah. But no, like actually, well said. This would be a good segue into like AEW. You have WWE who has an established locker room. There's an established decorum. There's an established like culture. Mm-hmm. And then you have someone like John Cena coming back in who's paid his dues, who's carried the thing, and who's just part of the guys again and like welcoming it. The guys welcoming him back in and like, hey man, wherever you want to go, wherever you want to lead, do your thing. And him just like I reckon he's just like having fun. And being and like welcoming an added presence and added like kind of like an authoritative figure in the locker room.
Yeah, I think there's an angle to it too that you don't necessarily know is there until it's there. We'll talk about last SmackDown. So he gets announced 2 weeks ago. He's going to be on SmackDown, and I think I don't love that. I think I like a surprise return. I like a pop. I like when John Cena music hits when I don't know John Cena is going to be there. That stuff is really fun for me. I'm going to watch regardless. Now, not everyone's going to watch regardless. And DirecTV doesn't have Fox right now. Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on, right? So if you announce John Cena, people know to be there. And then what happens is you end up with a really good rub for other guys who deserve it. I'm going to use Gunther as an example. Gunther just became the longest running Intercontinental Champion of all time. Cool, right? Super fun. Past the honky tonk man, rich history with that belt. We could go through it at length. People really romanticize it. I'm going to tell you, I don't personally think it's the championship belt, but it's a good belt. With that said, are there a bunch of eyes that are aware of this now? because John Cena shows up and they stick it out throughout the whole show? Because I think there is,
Mhm.
and if you're able to, if you're Triple H, or if you're able to, if you're in a leadership position in the back, say, hey, I recognize John Cena's here and he's on for 12 minutes in the microphone, not even wrestling. He's opening the show, he's doing this thing. He's not taking away from you. He's bringing you all these eyes. He's bringing you all this attention.
Yeah.
He's bringing you Vanity Fair, and he's bringing you all this coverage that didn't exist. And I think Saleh, in my opinion, that contribution, those dudes, since John Cena's been gone, they haven't seen that. They haven't seen what John Cena can bring. And the idea that you think you know where a guy is at, and right now I think the best feud kind of going, which is interesting because I was really knocking this guy a couple of weeks ago, Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. They don't pack houses like John Cena does.
No.
It's a really good story.
Right. Yeah.
You can create really good stories. You're not doing what John Cena does. And I think that's like a big eye opener. We had a similar thing in DCCW recently where Two Scoops Tommy Test shows up. Two Scoops Tommy Test after the show, I got to thank him for the house. Thanks for coming out, big dog. I know those other guys saw it too. Those other guys they can show up and do their thing. But you know what they could really do is start building that big ass fan base that I know they have and get them excited and get them out. And that's the thing. I know I'm on a diatribe, and I'm sorry, but that's the thing that I get so excited about, for people to see, hey, the way I do it is really good. Shoot. There's another guy that does it really good too. Like, let me take those strengths. And that's the thing I think that's going to work really well for WWE over the course. I guess he's going to be like 6 months, he said.
At least. And when he put outside, that's not just time he can perform. That's also time for him to recover, because he's also allotting time just in case something happens. He has 6 months within that 6 months to get better, because he's allotting that to, all right, if we'll check back in, but try to get back on set. But
according to Bill Maher, that writer strike's not going to be over ever.
Yeah, next year we have the IATSE, the labor's contracts up, and they're going to start their negotiation. And then you got Transpo, you got the Teamsters and contracts coming up next year, and they might just follow suit. And I'm like, hey man, if these guys are going to fight for their deal, we're going to fight for ours. There's a good chance this may go on for a minute. By the way,
we'll talk about that for a minute, Sully, because you were in the film community here in New Mexico. You know quite a bit. I don't want to share any titles or roles that you don't necessarily want everyone to know, but you have a little bit of inside pro wrestling on this. You know that this writer's strike is coming down to really distribution of monies off streaming services. And that's my opinion. I guess I don't want to speak for you. It's not close right now.
At this moment, no. The residuals distribution of the money, and also the biggest concern as well is the AI, the use of AI within this, defining that these jobs can't be done without the use of a human person, from writers to actors to anyone and everyone else that is part of the production. But yeah, these are the top two concerns, and right now we're still at a standoff.
Well, the interesting part too is what I think both sides are doing, specifically the industry side. Not, and I'm pro labor. I'm always pro labor. I hope none of this comes across like I'm not. I'm 100% pro labor. With that, they're looking for standing. Like, you're getting court cases now in different states or federally that say artificial intelligence is not copyrightable. Okay. Like, what does that do? What does that do to production? What does that do to studios? What does that do to those guys? Like, if they AI Saleh Taylor into a film, do they not own that film? Do they not own those rights? Can it be distributed? Can it be manipulated? Can it be whatever? And that's wild to me, because you end up with different interpretations too. Like, what if you and I AI 7 dwarves that mine with a little homely housewife or cottage wife? Like, are we creating Snow White, or is that artificial intelligence? So you end up in this weird Wild West. I don't know what other word to use, of technology and advancement that we're smart enough to create. I guess we aren't smart enough to govern, which is also, I think, the plot to Terminator.
Wow, you ain't lying there, bro. You ain't lying. Anything that comes up with new technology there, and it's outside of a definition of law, there has to come within us, whoever's interpreting law, some sense of precedence that can say, according to law, this is how it should be done. Yeah. So right now, because even though the technology isn't new, but the usage of it in the industry is relatively new. And we need to figure out a way to say definitively And this is where I imagine, those who don't want to, who are trying to continue to capitalize on this, trying to find definitive language or at least some leeway so that more money could be made towards them. And that's it's kind of like what's going on actually right now.
Well, it's exactly like it, and I think the analogy is always given is the pie. Everyone wants a piece of the pie. And the thing that's kind of wild about the pie right now is the pie is either gigantic, like the biggest pie you've ever seen, and giving off a bigger piece doesn't matter because you still have a huge ass piece, or the pie doesn't just not exist; it's a negative pie. It's a we put. I'm going to use fake round numbers because it's easy, but we put $100 million into creating a movie, and it only made $10 million. You're $90 million of no pie. Like, how do you assure like money to individuals? And how these studios are. They're so creative. Marketing costs this much. PR costs this much. Literally print media costs this much. And you end up with like these fake costs. I don't know how else to say that. Where like studios just steal. They just steal. Like they say, hey, we're outlining this, and you, actor, performer, presenter, creator, you don't get as high of a percent as you thought you were going to because we made that pie a lot smaller. We made it look like a $90 million loss when it wasn't. So you need transparency, you need third party, you got to create new jobs.
Yeah.
You have to create oversight. How do you do that? Like you lose John Cena to pro wrestling. That's what happens. Because you're not doing it well enough. Also, I don't know enough to speak to it like an authority, but this is just my opinion.
To add on top of the pie analogy, say if you had a pie analogy, say like a pie, you get a slice of that pie, and then from that slice, you can actually help create another pie from that main pie.
Yeah.
And then people are supposed to get pieces of that too.
Kids
and then, exactly. And you're supposed to, we're trying to figure out, hey man, we're part of the ingredients, we're part of this pie. And then part of that pie helps feed another piece, another table, and then another part of that fed another. We're supposed to still see pieces from these. But yeah, like it's a mess. But like
it's a mess.
But like everyone's fighting for their fair share.
Well, and in hindsight, you look back, and I know we kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit on this writer strike, but in hindsight, the studios early this year, late last year, obviously COVID-19 standing, they did a lot of weird retro. They did a lot of like early release stuff that you wouldn't necessarily thought you would have saw. Like movies that were good, they weren't great. Movies that weren't necessarily finished the right way, movies that weren't, so that they could get them out and push them and make a little bit of money, so they could sit on that money. The studio is going to outlast the labor every time. And you get like weird, I don't want to use like super negative verbiage. Tom Cruise, right? Mission Impossible comes up. Tom Cruise at the beginning is like, he's in front of the camera, right? It's like, it's a close up like he was in Top Gun again, right? And he's in front of the camera and he says, hey, we just want to thank you. We want to thank you for coming back out to the theater. We make this for you. Like it's like I know what a work is. Like you're working me. Studio, Paramount, or whoever, Lionsgate. I don't know who makes Mission Impossible. But Paramount. Yeah. I'm like, you're trying to trick your boy. But there's someone out there that's like, oh, okay. Like Paramount cares about me. Paramount don't care about you. Paramount don't care about you. Grow up. You're a wrestling fan.
When Tom is sitting in front of that camera saying thank you, he's sitting as a producer of the film as well.
Yes.
So like he's like, thank you for putting money back in Daddy's pockets.
Thank you for lining Daddy's
pockets, baby.
He's not wrong. That was it. I know that was a little bit of a tangent, but but better will pro wrestling fan be, because John Cena has taken all that and we were just talking about, if you're a performer and you're seeing a guy like John Cena come in, he's seen that now with what? Studios. He's seen that with, he's in the Barbie movie, he's in the Fast and Furious movie. I think he's in Avatar. I'm just naming things. But he goes and he sees expertise elsewhere. He brings that back. John Cena shares. John Cena's sharing knowledge.
Give it back.
Yeah, and it ends up being a better product. And guys who I think are real open to listen and change, Triple H being one of them, says, oh, okay, let's do that. And I do that stuff with press conferences, right? The WWE press conferences that are going on right now, That wasn't their idea. They're doing that because AEW was doing it.
What's that?
And AEW was creating them, and they were putting storylines in them. And WWE said, "Well, they can't have a thing better than our thing. Like we have to have that thing." And that's that growth. That's that going to Fox. That's that doing all those kind of moves that WWE hadn't necessarily done for the last 20 years, maybe even a heavy bit longer. But yeah, just kind of wild, kind of exciting. Then they went to England right after AEW. There's like they do what makes sense and they do what makes money. Speaking of England and AEW, Wembley Stadium, Saleh, the last time that I think for the foreseeable future and maybe forever, pro wrestling fan will be able to see one CM Punk. CM Punk removed from the company. Tony Khan put out a statement. No reason to read it at this point because we're 6 days past the news with our recording cycle. But he said he's gone. The part that was interesting to me was they were doing it when they were in Chicago. We talked about this last week as we were previewing All Out. They were in Chicago, where CM Punk is from, and he went on television, pre-recorded, and said, CM Punk's gone. He's like, we got a lot of guys here. We're going to move forward with these guys. You don't necessarily see that when guys get released. I think Ace Steel got released minutes before our taping today. You're not going to see anything on that. Kind of wild to me that this thing that never happens to anyone except for the one guy happened to the one guy again.
There was the common denominator in all those variables, and so hopefully it's all rainbows and sunshines for them, man. I hope the best for the company, but it's a tricky move. This one of the main critiques for AEW has been they need a leader in the locker room. They need a strong presence. They might even have to have their own version of Wrestler's Court or something.
Right.
And apparently that was supposed to be CM Punk, but they got pulled from under him. But I hope the best for this. And I was worried that the Chicago crowd might have turned into a Philly crowd for a second because it takes some cojones to go out there in front of the hometown crowd and tell them that the hometown hero is gone.
Yeah, it does. It does take some, and it being pre-recorded, he can't necessarily catch the hatred of the crowd. He can't necessarily catch the jeers.
He went out on stage and sat on a chair and did a 30-second statement.
Oh, he did? Because I only saw the TV thing.
That one's captured on. There's a couple of videos of fans who captured that. He did 30 seconds. It got booed out. He felt the heat. He got the heat. Okay. After they did a tape, he came out and tried to talk a little bit and got jeered out. And that's tricky. And
the thing that jumped out to me is so interesting about his release was what's the best way to say this from Tony Khan? You cannot make exception, in my opinion, in a leadership role for one individual so specifically by assigning your own value to that individual. So if you think CM Punk is so very important and everyone should get a press release. I think everyone should get a press release. And it should be this. It should be AEW, and I think he was using legalese, with cause, AEW with cause releases, Phil Brooks, CM Punk from his contract. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. That's all you got to say. They didn't do that. They created a chat GPT of what to say. They put out a 30-second, or maybe it was 90-second, whatever the thing was, statement talking about my safety, which, by the way, probably real. I don't know. I've met Tony Khan. I think I've talked to you about this at length. He's very nice. He's not a big man. He's a little dude. And I mean, short king, obviously. But if there's guys in the locker room, if there's guys that make that production go around and they assign equal value to someone as the way Tony Khan signed it to CM Punk, and that person doesn't get the same treatment, they don't get the same kick in the butt or closing the door behind them on the way out, I think that causes a weird animosity because now you're talking about assigned value. And I don't necessarily think that pro wrestling includer, I don't know what word to use, performer, adjacent industry individual. I don't think it's fair that you create such an exception for one guy. Fair is a tough word. I don't think it's proper to create exception for one guy if you're not willing to create that for other people's definition of that exact same type of talent.
It's tricky when like what CM Punk was still like I think he's still they took it I think they finally took his merch off their site, but
did they?
But even still now he was the leading in merchandise sales, also have biggest demand, and so the question comes like where do you draw the line for your biggest draw? I know should be it's a question of ethics, and it's a gray area where like, all right, we'll let you get away with so much because you give us so much and you do so much, or you draw so much, but like, where do you draw the line? And it seems like Tony Khan was saying, my safety is where I draw the line.
I guess so. But then do you look at it retrospectively as like the Young Bucks, who I guess are off the record saying if CM Punk had gone 6 months without, points on his record, I don't know what to say, that they would have figured out a way to sit down with him and work with him because that was their stipulation, which they didn't, or which he didn't. But do you as a pro wrestler or do you as a guy in, producing AEW say, hey, Tony, because he scared you, he gets fired because he beat up fill in the blank?
Yeah.
You're not telling me he got fired because he fought Jack Perry. Jack Perry, by the way, apparently suspended indefinitely, which I don't necessarily know what that means. But I think you have to have the same rules for everyone playing the game. And if we're going to sit here and have a real talk about the draw of AEW, I don't think it's Dean Ambrose. I don't think it's any of the Young Bucks. I don't even think it's Kenny Omega. It's two guys. It's Chris Jericho and it's MJF. Those are the guys. Those are the two guys that I would say I can't miss that thing. Those two guys are there. I've seen CM Punk. I've seen these other guys go. You, if you're MJF, if you're Chris Jericho, and I don't necessarily think Chris Jericho will because he's on the other end of his career. If you're MJF, you look around at this crap show and you say, "Oh, you got to pay me." Like you look
that too.
like I need to be the highest one to ever do this thing. Look at other sports. Look at Shohei Ohtani in baseball. Look at Joe Burrow in football. Look at everything else that's going on. I am that. I am him. And AEW, because they can't get their back of the house right, it's going to end up coming off fat paychecks, Saleh. Fat paychecks to guys that they can't lose to the competitor.
This is I think revealing behind the curtain, man. This is where the politics of the back of house comes in. The first and foremost, one of the biggest things that come to play whenever you're dealing with anything beyond the mat, beyond the ring, behind the curtain, it's a question of respect, and that has to start from the top to the top, from the top.
Yeah, and
if you don't have that strong sense of respect going and coming from, it's hard to keep it up for everyone else. You have to start a culture in which, all right, that's my booker, that's my guy. He takes care of me. I'm gonna take care of him.
Yeah,
and that has to be instilled. And I fear that AEW might be approaching this point of no return where the behind the curtains culture is just lacking a sense of that.
I think they strive to just piggyback off you. I think they strive to get some of that out into the world. I think they strive for a while for that to be part of the conversation that surrounds them going, hey, this guy's a performer. He's also in a leadership role. Hey, this guy's an agent, a producer, a booker, a scout. If you see him out, recognize he's got a world of talent. That's other titles. Mark Henry is an example. The Big Show is an example. There's he's not called the Big Show anymore. Paul White. There's all these examples of where they're like, hey, we want you to see a curtain, but heads up, that curtain's transparent. You can kind of look through it. Like you can kind of see what's going on behind there. I think it's kind of biting them in the ass right now. I think you have to.
Yeah.
The whole thing's kayfabe, right? You got to get your fan to suspend disbelief. You have to. I don't know if AEW is going to reap the reward they thought they were going to long term off this approach. It was fun and exciting for a while, but I don't know, man.
To like, let's be honest, AEW is WWE's competitor right now. That's why WWE is doing the the post show press conference now. That's why WWE is going to the UK. That's why all these things, So, but AEW needs to take a page from the WWE book and be like, hey man, let's just shut it down, and then we're going to release to you what we want to show you.
And there's one more step too. It's not just shut it down and release what we want to show you, but that what we want to show you is only fluff. It's I think today at the time of our recording, the big story going around is how AEW made like a private jet available for individuals to go to Bray Wyatt's funeral. And that's a really nice thing. But you could do that without telling the world.
Yeah.
And they're putting that work out now PR wise. Which I guess I appreciate. I mean, I like knowing that story. I guess I also assumed that just happened, but I'm like an old man, so I just think that happened. But for a little kid, that's a cool story. Sorry to cut you off. You were saying?
No. Like to continue off of that too. The biggest thing with WWE, because they're the show. Even though you're no one's a salaried for the performers. You're not a salaried employee. You're actually a contracted individual.
Yeah.
And but because you made it to the show, there's a sense of loyalty that comes with it. Also, I reckon their contracts, there's a lot of stuff in there that's saying do and don'ts and all that. But like you're on there and you're not going to go trying to find and trying to leak some stuff, because there's a good chance they can find out who came from, and they can deal with you. But the WWE has been decent on like trying to run as tight ship as they can. AEW, and just like how you said, release whatever they want to release that can only make the company look good, and like kind of lock it down with all the performers, because I know they have the same contract. But like, hey, I know that you're free to go and perform at other shows and all that stuff, but when you're with us, don't leak anything. Don't talk to anyone. Keep everything in house. Anything that we deal with, we will deal with ourselves. No one else needs to know our stuff, because we will, and you will build a sense of loyalty. And these guys will work even harder for you because you're going to work harder for them.
There's one further step to that too that I don't know if you're mentioning. And it's what you are going to leak, we're going to give you. Like the internet, the fan base, your family, they'll still think you're the spot. They'll still think you're the guy. But we're going to give you what you got to give. And we get it. The 13 minutes you perform in the ring, that's your art, man. Like, we're handing you a brush coat paint. The rest of the time, we need you to paint this way. We need you to stay within the lines or connect the dots or whatever analogy you want to draw, right? I don't know how willing today's employee, not just pro wrestler, I'm talking about myself, I'm talking about you. I don't know how much today's employee is willing to be controlled that way. I've jumped a million jobs. You've jumped a million jobs. Like, we both have been in the world of entertainment forever. Everything I've got fired from or quit, I'm not mad at, but I always did what I thought was best for me. And I think these guys are going to do that too. The spin that's so very smart that I don't necessarily know if pro wrestler understands, or even pro wrestling fan, is we'll use like yesterday as an example. Rolling Stone puts out a slam piece on Jimmy Fallon. They interview 50 employees of the Tonight Show and talk about how there were crying rooms, and they talk about how Jimmy Fallon creates a culture, and they don't say it directly, but like, we didn't know which Jimmy was going to show up today, which is obviously like talking about alcohol abuse. I'm not even going to use the word allegedly. That's what they're trying to insinuate. So AEW does what today? They put out a thing with Freddie Prinze Jr. talking about how hard it was to work with CM Punk because he was never going to be able to help CM Punk. So why CM Punk being, a jerk to me or whatever? And I think the verbiage was a little more extreme than what I just gave you. But the idea is like, this whole thing is stolen. Everything here is stolen, concept-wise. Like, I mean, you're going to do what other people do to find success. And that Rolling Stone article, by the way, that's because of this writer's strike. Don't think it's not. Don't think it's not because of that. Like, it all ties together. And that's, I think, the problem if you prioritize a part of, and this is any job, this isn't just pro wrestling, but we talk about pro wrestling here. If you prioritize any aspect of this industry over other aspects, you're blinding yourself. You're blinding yourself to the total picture. Like every single day you walk in to the historic El Rey Theater, we do one performance a month. I'm about to get on one. We do one performance a month. September the 14th, next Thursday, dccwtickets.com. Go buy them. Put money in daddy's pockets. When you walk in, contributor to DCCW, person I give monies to, you don't start when the show starts. You start at home, getting gimmick. Put your tie on. When you walk to the El Rey, when you walk to the historic El Rey, look at the curb appeal. What do we got in front of the building? Like, is there trash right there? Scoop that bad boy up. Did a letter fall off the marquee? Let me know. Like you start going. Like, look at it from 30,000 feet, and as you get closer to wherever your workstation is, wherever your presence is. If you're selling merch or food or you're a broadcaster like you and I, or you're performing in the ring, then narrow it down. Then get it to where you're dialed in. And I think for some reason, Saleh, that is lost to so many people who identify by a job title. And identifying by a job title to say, well, that's not how I work. Is that how you work? Because if you can only do one thing, I need three things from you. I need you to do a good job. I need you to be present. I need you to make my life easier. Are you doing those three things? You do those three, I'll keep promoting you until you only do two. Everyone in my life, not just professionally. I get fired up, dude. I get fired up with people that don't get it. Don't tell me you're an authority or an expert in a field and you can't tell me what a t-shirt cost at the stand because you wrestle. You can't tell me you don't know the time the doors open because you are the ring guy. You can't tell me you don't know what a drink cost at the bar because you run effects and you know it all. Like show up. You know who does know it all? Your boy. Your boy knows it all. Get fired up, dude.
That was a beautiful promo you just cut, by the way. Bro, Freddie Fame showing you why he got the name.
Does it not infuriate you? I'm not trying to be that guy. But if CM Punk thinks that the only thing that's important in pro wrestling is pro wrestling in the ring, CM Punk don't get it. Like, you're given the opportunity to produce this Saturday show, either officially or unofficially. And you're going to get your own special roster, and you're going to hang out with your boys. And maybe one of your boys said, hey, you're not the dude I thought you were when I was a fan of you 20 years ago. And then you take that role personally. Here's the thing. My 20-year high school reunion, Saleh, is in 2 weeks.
Just
all those
years?
Kids from 20 years, wild, huh?
Just
all those kids from high school think they know me. Dog, they knew me 20 years ago. You know how much they've helped me? Figure it out. Like, CM Punk's got to figure it out. Also, no way WWE's hiring him, right?
As a fact, just very slim chance of that. To piggyback off of you when saying that, I think I said this before, but I'll say it again, man. One of my uncles, when he told me, if you're ever going to step in the ring, before you do, you consider every single person that's ever stepped in the ring, and who is in the ring, and who's about to step in the ring. You're never in there alone. You're never doing this alone, but also makes you feel like I ain't done nothing. I am nobody, until I've given back to this business. I am nobody, and it's a bigger picture than just you. You got your gimmick, you got your character, you got your work, you got your place in the locker room, but it's bigger than that. You got the business as a whole. Am I adding to this? I think of this as an artist, as a musician, as an actor, stuntman, whatever. What am I doing to give back? I'm telling stories. I'm playing my part. I'm saying my one line, getting out of the way. Am I doing it well? Am I giving back? Or whatever role I'm playing, I have to take into consideration everyone has done it before, everyone is doing it now, and everyone's about to do it. And I need to acknowledge my role in this and do it to the best of my ability, become better, because there are plenty of those who want to do it and who can do it better. So I got to make myself better, and I need to honor the time, the energy, the lives that have been put on through. And more importantly, your work, your energy, anything and everything you've been doing. I feel your passion every time around you, brother, and I love it, man.
Yeah.
And I need to honor that anytime I want to do something for you, because it's not just for you. We're doing it for the business. We're doing it for DCC.
For the brand.
For the brand. We're doing this because there's a bunch of guys and there's a bunch of performers, guys and girls, anyone and everyone who wants to come in and they want to put their bodies on the line. I need to honor their time. I need to honor their work. So it's bigger than just you, and it's bigger than just the politics. So even sometimes even bigger than just the politics of behind of the locker room. Where, hey man, these guys are talking crap about me online. I don't care.
No, do not care.
Move
Who are
on.
these people? Do
We
they have
have a
names?
we have a bigger job to do. We have a bigger brand that's growing. We're moving on. We don't worry about the small stuff because our energy needs to be focused on what's ahead.
Well, and that's one too. Like I have never, and we're coming up on the end of it. I have never professionally found success by punching down. I've never one time been like, you know what's going to help here? If I bully this fan, if I bully this person that doesn't have the talent than me, if I bully this person that I identify has flaw professionally or personally, never will do it because it gets you nowhere. And people see that. You know how I know they see it? Because I see it when other people do it. And I'm not sitting here like an idiot. It's been a lot of years since anyone's told me how to do this. It's been a lot of years. And that's because of the work that goes into it. That's the same story with Phil Brooks, CM Punk. Tony Khan's learning this thing. Yeah. Tony Khan's got a lot of learning to do in this thing. You know who doesn't? Triple H. No one's telling Triple H how to do it anymore. Triple H is seeing it and he's adapting it because he's smart. And also, low-key kind of super impresses me. I think, Saleh, if you're able to buy into the idea, and this is not just me, a producer, I'm not trying to be Tom Cruise. If you're able to buy into the idea that doing the thing for the brand makes the brand so much bigger that you get a bigger piece of it, that's how you get a bigger piece of it. Because you're not going to get bigger than the brand. CM Punk was not bigger than WWE. It existed after he left. CM Punk was not bigger than AEW. It's going to exist moving forward. It doesn't work that way. If you get AEW to as big as it's ever been, which you did at Wembley Stadium with 80,000 people, you get a bigger piece of that pie that you created. And I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, well, this is capitalism. You're part of the thing. All I'm saying, that's the role you chose. You didn't choose owner. You didn't choose promoter. You chose talent. That's how it gets bigger for you. Talent.
To paint as beautiful picture as I can. If you're worried about your slice of the pie, let's just make the pie bigger. Yeah, I'm going to need your help with that.
Please. Get it as big as possible. We got a big show coming up. Speaking of, this upcoming September the 14th is a Thursday night at the historic El Rey Theater. There are a handful of tickets left. You can have them if you want them. DCCWtickets.com. Go over there. Come hang out with us. I host that radio show here in town. The phone lines have become the DCCW hotlines. Like it is the thing. It's the business here in town. I think we're going to do live music again. We have one little technical issue. We have same day setup and teardown, which is going to make music tough. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we're not going to try. So we're going to do our absolute best to knock that out the park. So we're going to do that. Also, this is real. Remember the fire swallower the other day? I don't know. Let's add some weird stuff. Let's
and everything, baby.
This thing happen. So talk about the band real quick. Talk about where you guys are at.
I'll be sitting in with a band called Mankinis and the Defenders, led by Nathan Fox, the Soul Fox.
Okay.
I'll be playing some lead guitar for him. Really excited. I'm honored that we're going to be playing at the fair Thursday evening. But my heart, my soul also still with DCC Dub.
We're going to do well. Expanded roles coming for Saleh and so many others. We're excited for the future of the organization, and it is growing at a breakneck speed. I mean, we're having a lot of good fortune right now, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. Very good episode of Going Over. We hadn't really done this type of episode yet. I like the back of the house talk. Thank you for letting me be so impassioned for so many periods throughout this thing. I just get a little fired up sometimes. Final words, brother?
Be well. Stay groovy, baby.
I like that so very much. Good job, everyone. GG.
Thank you.